Well, a stunning moment in a Michigan courtroom today when a jury failed to convict any of the four men in the plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. At the end of the weeks-long trial, the jury voted to acquit two men of all charges and could not reach a verdict on the other two after 5 days of deliberations. This is a case that drew nationwide attention ahead of the 2020 election. An FBI investigation revealed what prosecutors called a group of anti-government extremists who were so upset by Michigan's pandemic restrictions, they launched a plan to kidnap the governor and put her on trial. But the defense painted a much different story of a group of men who were never very serious about taking any action, who were tricked into the plan by the FBI and informants. Dave Ehrenberg is a state attorney in Florida. He is joining us live tonight. He's been following this case closely. So, Dave, when it first happened, I still remember reading the headline, digging into the story, and it felt like a page out of a Hollywood movie script. I thought there is no way that this is happening. It was shocking. So now here we are, no convictions. Did you expect this today?
Yeah, good evening, Marnie. I did not. Domestic terrorism is a growing threat, and it's based with white nationalist violence. And these guys fit the role for that. But yet the jury seemed to think that they didn't have an organized plot to kidnap the governor, and they set two of them free. Now, the other two will probably face a retrial, so they're not off the hook yet. But, this whole trial showed that there is a line between protected free speech and a crime. And asked the question, when does hateful speech become a crime? And when you have a plot that did not succeed, it does make it harder for prosecutors to show that this was a crime, because then you have to delve into their text messages and communications, and you don't have the end result. And in a sense, what was a good result, the fact that she was not kidnapped, what made it more difficult for prosecutors to prove their case.
Mm-hmm. And did it further blur that line, today's result?
Yeah, you could make that argument that it did. Well, we don't know the reason why the jury acquitted and refused to find the other two guilty. And also the trial was not televised because it was a federal trial. But yeah, you could say that as a result, it is much more difficult to convict folks like this, these white nationalists, these folks who get together and play war games, and arrest and prosecute them, because they were a loose-knit group of people who came together without any clear plan. They didn't have an attack date. The details of the plan differed based on the witnesses that were on the stand. They all had different explanations. And there was an entrapment defense, meaning that, hey, these guys were poor, they were unorganized, they weren't very bright, and it was up to the government informants to come in and make them into what they were not. That was the defense, and it looked like the jury at least bought some of it.
So to that point, what message does this then send to the FBI?
Well, the FBI needs to do better as far as the informants, as far as putting people on the stand who could appeal to the jury. See, I think a problem in this case is that the jury did not like these confidential informants, or they didn't want to believe that this group of four individuals were actually part of an organized group that had a set plan to kidnap the governor. The fact that it didn't succeed, the fact that there was no date planned for the act, worked in the defense's favor. And of the four defendants, one of them testified in his defense, and he was seen as someone who obviously wasn't as culpable as the others. The guy who testified in his defense was acquitted. The other three either were acquitted or were found not guilty. But I think it shows that the jury seemed to be sympathetic towards the defendants more than the key witnesses. If you're going to convict guys like this, you're going to have solid witnesses on the stand who are credible and who can appeal to the jury. And apparently the FBI did not.
You alluded to this a moment ago, Dave, but some worry, and there's some weight to this, that this may embolden extremists to do further acts. Does the outcome today do that? Is there that real threat? And legally speaking, is there anything that can be done to prevent it, given the verdict?
I think Congress should enact a law against domestic terrorism. We don't have one. There's a definition in federal law against domestic terrorism, but there's not a specific statute on it. That could allow the FBI to better surveil some of these groups. And, I do think this sends the wrong message to these kind of individuals that, hey, they can get away with it. I mean, during the trial, the FBI raided a house near Detroit in connection to threats made to the judge, lawyers, and a witness. So this is not going away. And when the FBI director says that white nationalist violence is the greatest threat to our country right now, we have to take it seriously.
It's not over. This doesn't shut the door completely. We've got these hung counts, as you mentioned a moment ago. How will prosecutors reevaluate their strategy moving forward?
I think they're going to have to make sure their witnesses are more credible on the stand and avoid an entrapment defense. And if they can't do that, then they're just going to have to scrap this, because this case did not go well. I mean, the other defendants did not take the stand. So now you have the ability for the prosecution to use your evidence and use your witnesses to convince the jury without having the defendants testify in response. So that's an advantage there. And yet they couldn't get a conviction. It's not up to the defense to put up any evidence. They can just sit back and say the prosecution didn't fulfill its burden of proof. But in the end, the prosecutors have to determine whether this is worth going forward, because our criminal justice system is based on the fact that we would rather have 10 guilty people go free than convict one innocent person. Prosecutors have all the burden of proof to prove cases beyond any reasonable doubt. Knowing that, prosecutors have a very tough decision to make going forward.
And that's the system. Dave, always good to have your insight. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Marnie.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.